Fucking atheist, folks. All the SpongeBob beside me here. You guys have a wild imagination. This is Dr. Kent, the science gent.
Or like Dr. Dick, the creationist prick.
Yeah, they don't like that. Some narrow-minded bigots object to me being called doctor.
Because you're not, Kent. It's really that simple.
I didn't get my degrees from their approved indoctrination centers. I don't care what they think. I identify as doctor. Some of them identify as something they're not, don't they? Fucking atheist, folks. All the SpongeBob beside me here. You guys have a wild imagination. This is Dr. Kent, the science gent.
Or like Dr. Dick, the creationist prick.
Yeah, they don't like that. Some narrow-minded bigots object.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca.
Pollen. I just came across a video by a man named Logic.
Hello! So yeah, this guy replied back to me. I haven't watched much of it, but it seems interesting, seems like fun, I'm in a good mood, seems like a good time. Let's have a look, see what's going on here.
And people have been commenting on my videos, and they say that they came from his video, so I thought I would discuss what his video says. And his video is all about debunking one of my videos, 25 proofs that God definitely exists, irrefutable, and I still stand by that, absolutely.
Yeah, that's to be expected. That's usually how it goes, whichever direction the responses are going in.
After hearing his entire video and everything he said,
I'm actually amazed that you spent that much time watching my video. It's kind of impressive, actually. Or maybe I've just learned not to respect it after Almando, I don't know.
and he hasn't gotten to all the points that I've made yet, but so far what he said does not debunk anything that I've said in my video.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm open to that as a possibility, at least. I'm curious what you have to say. As I say, I haven't watched this video. At least not most of it. I will point out, though, so the audience knows what's going on, this isn't the only video that Shmuel made in response to this. In fact, kind of in the aftermath of my videos, he made 6 videos, sort of in response, although not all directly in response to me. Some of them are more in response to the comments. So I think what I'll do is I'll look at this first one, and if there's something worth talking about here, maybe I'll go on to the second one, and so on. On the other hand, if this one's kind of then, you know,
And I want to actually thank him because it forces me to make my arguments stronger and more complete.
That's very true, and I'm really glad that you mentioned that. See, that to me is what's so great about people having the ability to say whatever opinion they have openly and argue for it and argue against other ones. It makes us all gradually have to make our arguments stronger and more complete. And if people care about reality and the truth, I think that should be the goal. So yeah, thank you for saying that.
And I also thank him because I know he could have been a lot more disrespectful and mocking than he was.
That's true, I could have. In the past, maybe I would have. For the most part, these days, I try to keep things a little bit level-headed. Obviously, I gotta throw in a joke here and there, or a little bit of a jab, you know, a little poke in the eye, occasionally. And I mean, when I find an argument especially bad, I'm not gonna hold my tongue about it. I'm sure you're a nice guy, you're probably reasonably intelligent, even if sometimes you make arguments that I don't think
Lies.
I mean, everybody does that sometimes.
No, he's
It's not
not.
like my life's
Shut up.
destroy
You know he's not.
I just want to argue on the internet. That's what the internet's for.
Except, well, okay, it depends on how he,
That's true, although I will say depends on
it defines reasonably intelligent.
Yeah, there is such a thing as being too aggressive.
But Shmuel and Armando are just,
Balance it a little better these days, but to be honest,
well, there is something.
And I also just recognize that after I've spent hundreds of hours debating with atheists, pages and pages of comments going on and on, and I know no matter what I say, you're going to have a retort. Whatever you say, I'm going to have a retort. And it can go on for hours and hours and hours. So,
oh yeah, if we try to go back and forth doing counterpoints to counterpoints to counterpoints on every single point, we're going to start making increasingly enormous videos to the point where that consumes our entire channels, and eventually the entirety of YouTube, then the entire internet, and then the entire universe. And then all of humanity will die because all the energy in the universe will be consumed just to fuel our videos. We should avoid that, I agree.
I'm not going to go through the entire video and make a response. I'm just going to go through the first little part, and then we can go back and forth about that and discuss it.
Okay, that's fine. I guess we'll see how that goes. To be honest, I'm more interested in what your counterpoints actually are than in debunking them or something. But it might go that way. We'll see.
I think it will be a fruitful discussion. You're an intelligent guy. I'm curious as to why you don't show your face or your identity.
Oh, well, that'd be on account of the horrible facial burns I sustained when I was burned as a witch back in 1629, I believe. I was a pretty young lass back then.
Why is that? I'm sure you have a good explanation for that.
As good as it gets. Why do I need one, though? How is it relevant to any sort of interaction between you and I that I provide you with what you consider to be a good explanation for why I cover my face?
You're a very well thought out person. I respect you very much.
Okay.
But I want to explain to you more about what I said in my video, and so you'll understand better.
That sounds lovely. Thank you.
So, much like the way the universe was created, I wrote the word irrefutable on purpose.
Yeah, that's clever. Putting the purpose thing in there as...
I know that what I said in that video stands up to logic.
Okay.
No, it does not.
Glad you know that.
And while it may require a new layer of sophistication for me in how my arguments are made, I do believe that when the arguments are made, a logical person is compelled to believe God or something like God must exist.
Something like God. I'm guessing that means something like capital G God. So still a God, just not that God. Although to be fair, the video wasn't about just a God. Some of the arguments were, but some of them were also about specifically your God. In the arguments I responded to in my first video, which is what we're talking about here, that was that the existence of Adam is a genealogical fact, that a lot of people witnessed the revelation to Moses, and every Jew's grandfather believes so, and the survival of the Jews despite persecution. The other ones are more general-purpose God arguments, but those three in particular do refer, I think, specifically to your God and not just something like it.
So first, logic takes issue with what I said when I said the world was created from nothing. And he says, what is nothing? How does that work? How can you create from nothing?
Well, to be fair, that's something that's also brought up by theists. How can you create something from nothing? And I'm inclined to agree, if by nothing you mean no forces, no physical laws, no quantum effects, nothing. And this is not a state of existence I've ever heard anyone in physics or cosmology actually propose. It's a state of things that's never been observed, and moreover, there's no real reason why we should assume that it's even possible, let alone that it's possible.
Oh, one sec. You still here?
This is simple as possible. Let's just
I have to...
the lack of
I can't see my chat that well again. I have to change something.
Of energy and matter, and I don't mean the matter and energy themselves. I mean that which...
I'll do that in a second. I just have to clear the room first.
If there were something suddenly in the nothing, they would have certain properties that would manifest in certain ways or behave in certain ways. And again, I'm not talking about the thing, I'm talking about the nature of...
Also,
reality,
hello,
which would
Kilmore.
Permit a thing to be a thing, which would permit something to be something. Is that something? I'm not saying it is or isn't, I'm asking if so, why so, and if not, why not?
And any child really knows what
One sec.
is.
Oh yeah, the classic, a child knows this argument. There are a lot of things children know that are suspect.
Because when a magician has the cups and he's moving them around and the ball is under one of them, the kids all know that the other cups have nothing and one cup has something.
Yeah, but they're wrong.
Okay.
Two cups without the ball underneath have trillions of atoms, an enormous quantity of matter and energy, and of course they take up space in space-time.
Okay, you're still here? I'm glad you had fun with, or you're still having fun with Blueburst.
Is far, far from nothing. When we're talking about nothing in the sense of pre-universal, pre-reality nothing, air inside the universe on Earth that just happens to not have a ball.
Joy is come and gone, and the party's over now. Your mind returns from the latest shot of fun, and you're sober now. A lingering fear takes hold, something you can't shake. You realize that someday soon it will all end, and who will smile?
I guess I was too slow again.
Searching for a miracle, reaching depths I've never been, finding things that they'll never know. And I'm diving head first in.
yeah, if you didn't hear me, I'm glad you had fun, or you are still having fun on. I guess you're playing on Aphonia, and thanks for well, being here again, or that you were here again.
It's true, some days are dark and lonely, and maybe you feel sad, but Pinky will be there to show you that it isn't that bad. Promise me that when we have to say goodbye, don't look straight giving. Let my laughter keep your precious hope alive. Tucked inside a grin, I'd go through hell a million times just to see you smile. For the chance to dry your eyes makes it all worthwhile. But still I find my mind won't let me be. I tried hard enough, I could find my own way. But circuitry keeps me from changing my function. A glitch in the system is all I have for it. Why would my maker make me aware of the flaw? I can't change. I am imperfection. I know that I am flawed. Can somebody help me find what I lost before? I am imitation. I know I can't exceed. Is there any hope for a heart that cannot be?
Ow. Best.
Spent nights of chasing days, eternal rest to witness being raised. It is seldom seen in this world of now. It is welcome, universe and out. It is seen only from eyes of thine. Is it free? 'Tis only by and by.
Wait. I think that one is better than the worst one I have. I think the first mind item I have is Angel Mind -2.
Spent nights of chasing days, eternal rest to witness being erased, to witness being erased.
It is wondrous, willing to know my fate.
Oh, Rappies. Why are you doing this to me?
I didn't know that I could still love you, but still I wondered every day. I think I dreamt of you the other night. No short-lived memory. Look how far you've come, becoming somebody brand new. I've been away for so long, but when you came home, you were still you. Somehow I knew it and never thought. What did I get us into? Still my heart is breaking. No magic could heal these wounds. I wish I could tell you, but I don't wanna fuck this up like I have before. I think it'd be better if I just shut my mouth, 'cause I hate how I look, how I sound. I just can't help this feeling that I'm falling in love. So boxing my feelings on a digital dove. I've been back inside yourself for a really long time now. So why do you feel so far away?
Hello, Byron. You're up. You know me.
Just so scared of putting all this pressure on you. I care so much, but I still got these feelings still. Every time I hear you laugh, I feel like I'm okay. So I'll never talk, I swear I'll never say. I just can't help this feeling that I'm falling in love. So I see my feelings on a digital dove. I've been back inside yourself for a really
Well,
long time.
let's go back to
Why do you feel so far?
nonsense.
All in it is not what we're talking about. So again, what are we talking about? Specifically, what are we talking about? I'll let you decide what we're talking about because I want to work from your ideas, but the fact is, if the definition of nothing that you come up with doesn't work for the actual situation that we're talking about, I have no choice but to ask again, to ask for clarification or a redefinition, because just saying it's empty air doesn't work.
So it's a lack.
You say nothing is a lack, so when you say there was nothing before the universe, that God created the universe from nothing, or that atheists think that the universe came from nothing, what exactly are we referring to a lack of? And I mean the specifics here because just saying everything doesn't really address my point. I don't know what you're including in everything. I think if just all matter and energy in the universe disappeared tomorrow, a lot of people would say that's nothing. That now everything is gone. But there's still a lot of what reality is there. You can still reintroduce matter and energy to that reality, and existence would still mean something. Physical events could still happen. So would the lack of energy and matter really be nothing? You tell me.
And that's how Judaism says the world was created. I mean, who knows how it was created? This is the tradition handed down.
Plus 5 again.
From the Bible that was created from nothing.
Okay, well, that's an interesting tradition. I still don't really know what it means. I still don't understand how the hell that would work or why I should believe it.
They call it ex nihilo in Latin. Now, how does something come out of nothing exactly? Nobody claims to know that. Certainly not me.
Okay, then I don't believe it. If you don't even have anything to offer me on how that works, I'm not going to believe you. I mean, this is very different from saying, yeah, a physical process happened, but we don't quite understand it yet. Physical things happen. Chemistry happens. At least we have that. But in this case, you don't have any of that. We're not talking about an unknown physical event that maybe requires some investigation to figure out how it might happen. If we were talking about something happening within the physical universe, I wouldn't be nearly so dismissive. I would say, okay, I'm not really sure what kind of physical events might lead to this, but, feel free to present them. The problem is here, there are no physical events. We're talking about an event within nothing, performed by an entity that supposedly is non-physical, interacting with something that isn't anything at all. I mean, to me, that sounds like nothing, doing nothing, to nothing, and then boom, there's something. With my question about how it works, I don't mean I want some scientific explanation. What I'm saying is, I don't even understand how it makes sense conceptually. I'm not asking for a step-by-step explanation of how it happened. That's something for way later. I'm just asking how the idea even makes sense. Now, am I saying I think you're definitely wrong? No, of course not. I think you're just presenting me with a very underdeveloped idea. One based apparently entirely within tradition, about which no further thought is performed.
And it's something only the creator would know.
See, that's a verbal shrug. And again, I'm not asking you for some detailed explanation. I just want to understand what you mean when you say what you believe, what the words mean, and then I guess some kind of reason to think that from what you define as nothing, it's possible to get something. I don't even need to know how, right? We're not trying to get to that point yet. I accept a lot of uncertainty. Say for something like abiogenesis. I know there's a great deal of uncertainty on what happened. There probably always will be. However, what we're talking about are molecules, and I know the power of chemistry to create complex molecules. And so at least I can see the possibility there, right? It doesn't imply certainty and it doesn't imply knowledge of the specifics, but I can see that here is an idea at least worthy of some serious consideration, because we're talking about unknown details within a pretty well understood big picture. But with your thing, we don't have that. We haven't defined nothing adequately for me to understand what we're talking about, and we haven't established that it can be interacted with in this way. We're operating completely in the dark, and the only thing on offer is a tradition that I don't adhere to. Well, I'm afraid that doesn't help me, and saying, well, I don't know, only the creator would know how he did it, while in a theistic universe that may indeed be true, doesn't help me believe it. In fact, the complete lack of any actual reason beyond tradition helps me not believe it even more. By the way, isn't it funny how it's usually the atheists who are accused of believing something came from nothing?
But there's nothing illogical about believing that it came from nothing.
Okay, so what's the logical pathway that leads us to the belief that it came from nothing?
I mean, it's here, and it had a starting point. Most agree to that.
The expansion, yeah, but that doesn't mean there was a starting point which was literally nothing. I have no reason to agree with that. I mean, I could be persuaded, I'm not saying that's not the case, and I'm familiar with the idea that maybe the universe came from quote-unquote nothing, but not quite nothing the way the religious think of nothing. I'm not just going to blindly accept that either, I'm not going to dismiss it either, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. But yeah, the point is, just saying it had a starting point doesn't get me to where you are. But so yeah, if I agree that it had a starting point, meaning expansion of space-time, that doesn't get me to where you think the starting point is. I think your idea of what constitutes a starting point is very different from mine. And I think part of the problem is that we're thinking about different things starting. As I say, I'm talking about expansion. You're talking about the existence of everything. Except, of course, for God, who just gets to exist for no reason.
So it must have come from nothing, but we don't know exactly how it did.
Why must it have? I don't agree with you. In the last video, you brought up Stephen Hawking as an argument, who I would say also did not agree with you. At least not in any meaningful sense. I'm curious who you think does agree with you, because just saying there was a beginning to the expansion we observed, saying an event began, does not imply that prior to the event there was nothing. I'm not seeing a reason to make that leap. You need to provide one. But it seems as if you didn't realize that you made a leap.
And as you say many times, there's nothing wrong with not knowing. There's nothing wrong with not having a complete explanation. So we don't have a complete explanation about how something came from nothing.
Okay, that's fine. I understand. What work are you doing on it? I don't mean you specifically, I mean anybody. What are people within your religion doing to establish the truth of the claims within the religion?
Nothing.
What they believe is true.
That's
If
the
it
answer.
came from
Nothing.
Details, frankly, don't interest me that much. What interests me is being convinced by somebody that the basic concept of the thing makes sense, based on the definition of nothing that we're using, which hasn't really been provided. And to be convinced of its plausibility, and frankly to stop being told that I must believe it just because I accept that space-time expansion is occurring. There are many things about the past, and the origin of the universe, and whatever that we don't know. I accept the lack of detail. What I don't accept is just telling me something that sounds incoherent, and then instead of making any attempt to make it
Bro.
make sense to me, you tell me it's tradition and only the creator would know, and then just stop there and don't put in any more effort. Would you accept that about anything I told you? If I said, yeah, the universe just popped into existence in 1972 from nothing, with no god, there just wasn't a universe, and then there just was a universe. It's tradition. I just believe it, you know? I don't know how it works. You know, look, if you're asking me for a reason to think that's possible, or plausible, or likely, ask my grandpa. My grandpa will tell you. He's all about the 1972 tradition. Would you maybe have anything to say about that? A few questions, perhaps, before you'd even start taking that idea seriously? See, that's why I'm not worried about the details with your idea. Wanting details would imply that I'm taking it seriously enough to care. But you're not giving me a reason to take it seriously in the first place. In fact, you're giving me a lot of reasons not to.
It's debated in Jewish mysticism, and the debate is not for discussion.
It's debated based on what? Based on what observations? Look, just tell me what you mean by nothing. What the religion specifically means by nothing. That this form of origin is possible. You know, some reason to think it's something I should at least take seriously. And I don't mean mystics consider it traditional and debate the tradition amongst themselves. I mean findings, things you've actually found out about how reality works. I doubt the mystical debates are really going to scratch that itch for me, so I agree, I don't think they need to be talked about here.
Post-creation, it's true, nothing comes from nothing. So that sort of resolves the dichotomy, it resolves the contradictions you have in your head. We say the world came from nothing, but also that we say nothing comes from nothing.
That doesn't really resolve anything. Post-creation, nothing comes from nothing. If it's possible that something comes from nothing, then I certainly don't know that. If that's a thing that can happen, I don't see why it couldn't happen within creation. Why couldn't it? You tell me. Tradition? But if it can't, then why am I assuming that before the universe it can't? Based on what? Tradition. People say so. Well, then I'll need something a little more compelling from those people who say so. I'll accept some pretty wild ideas from people if they show their work and their work is compelling. But come on, man, if the answer is just tradition, I could go to any tradition around the world and come up with radically different answers. I could believe all these conflicting things all at once for equally good reasons.
Well, the world came from God. God created existence as nothing, and then once it was created, and once the ball was, so to speak, rolling, it has to be created from something. Everything post-creation has to be created from something.
God created existence as nothing. So he created something, that something being existence, and that something was nothing. And before that, there wasn't even something nothing, there was nothing nothing because there was no existence. Because at some point that was created. I ask you sincerely, can you understand why I'm a bit confused here? Can you understand why I'm asking for a little more clarity than that? I don't think it's unreasonable. I don't expect you to have all the answers, but if you were going to tell me something like that, I would have at least hoped that you wouldn't pretend that it was a completely unambiguous statement and required no further clarification.
So we believe God created an empty space, and through that, he created the world out of that empty space. So yes, it was created from nothing.
Oh, so nothing is empty space, but what was it before that? Before he created empty space, what was that? I mean, that's got to be more nothing than empty space is nothing, right? So now, despite you claiming that nothing is such a simple concept, even a child should be able to understand it, it's just a lack of something. Now we have two forms of nothing in play. And I'm much more interested in the earlier one. I'm interested in the creation of empty space nothing within no space nothing. This is a very interesting idea. I'd like to see that explored more, because I'm not quite understanding how a non-physical entity can influence spaceless nothingness to produce physical space. And again, I know you don't have all the details, but can you see how that's a bit bizarre? Can you see how I would have to have some sort of a reason to accept that? That claim is so outlandish and lacking in critical definition that I'm not just going to accept it based on, say, tradition. And I'm not even sure if you're trying to convince me of this specifically. You're addressing what I said, but maybe you're just addressing it to have addressed it. But the fact is, this undercuts all of your other arguments. This is the claim your other arguments are supposed to irrefutably prove, but none of them address it at all. None of them support it. None of them even make it any more clear. Every other one of your arguments relates to some aspect of this God and creation system that comes after this point that we're talking about. Every single one of them relies on my buy-in to this, that this is possible, and plausible, and likely. If I don't at least have that, this is not going to be a prime choice, or indeed a very highly ranked choice, in terms of explanations for any phenomenon I observe. This isn't even the horse falling down at the starting gate. This is the horse falling down 10 minutes before the race starts. And so if you're not going to continue to address the majority of my video, I think that is wise. Because if this part of the claim is not properly supported, at least to the point where I can see it as making sense and being plausible at the very least, then everything else is irrelevant. All this stuff about how could atoms form in some non-theistic, science-y way. Okay, maybe they could, maybe they couldn't, it doesn't really matter. Your idea specifically is so vague and lacking in support that it's not even really on the list of alternatives to me. If you were to convince me to drop every scientific explanation for anything that ever happens, that wouldn't get me one step closer to accepting your explanation, especially now that we've discovered this critically flawed component upon which all other aspects of your claim depend.
And he says that something out of nothing has never been seen. So this is an interesting point. I would argue that it has been seen and it's seen all the time.
Really? Because you just said it's not possible within creation. You said that seconds ago.
Because this is one example, a seed sort of decomposes and breaks down before it becomes a tree. So it sort of becomes like nothing. I don't know if it's exactly nothing, but it's sort of like nothing.
No, it's not.
For such huge, redwood tree to happen.
Yeah.
A redwood tree does not come from nothing. I'm not sure where you...
I did that on purpose.
You might need to take
Definitely.
In the meantime, though, do an experiment for me. Take a redwood seed, crush it up, compost it until it decomposes fully, then take that compost, put it in a little plastic bag, put the compost under one of 3 upside-down cups, then lift one of the other cups where the compost isn't, take what's under it, put it in a vacuum chamber and plant it in nothing, turn on the vacuum and grow a redwood. I look forward to seeing your results.
Jesus died, so his life became nothing, and then out of that death
Don't say he resurrected. That'd really confuse me.
came the biggest religion in the world.
You had me nervous there for a second. But yeah, I'm becoming increasingly confused what the hell nothing means. Like, a dead guy is nothing, and then something coming from nothing is just people having opinions on that. Commenters, pick your jaws up off the floor and leave a comment on my video about this. I mean, I guarantee you this is a great way to drive engagement. Everybody wants to say something right now. I know it.
6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, and the state of Israel came out.
Look, are you yanking my chain? Like, am I being baited right now or something? Like, the creation of a nation state in part in response to an event where people were killed is something out of nothing? What the hell kind of nothing are we talking about that existed before the universe? I was confused before, but I thought I had some sort of a grasp on at least what general category of claim we were talking about. I was a little fuzzy on what you meant by nothing, but not completely baffled. Now, though, I have no clue, so I'm even further away from accepting your basic premise.
So when things become nothing, amazing things can come out. There's a lot of examples of that throughout history and throughout biology.
No, there aren't. Nothing in history or biology has ever become nothing. Not physically nothing. You might say ideas fell away, or like nations dissolved or transformed and in the minds of the people became nothing, but the actual physical thing did not become nothing. Matter and energy is not destroyed, and there is no point at which actual physical nothingness has ever been observed. You're using the word nothing in two completely different ways. You're trying to support this idea that something comes from nothing by using sort of this informal, colloquial, figurative sense of the word to support the idea that something comes from nothing in the literal, physical sense of the word. What you're doing is called an identification fallacy, and the only reason I mentioned the name is because for some reason I couldn't think of the name and I was compelled to figure it out. And I wanted to have it on record that I did in fact figure it out.
He talks about my proof about how humans build particle accelerators, and we know that. And he seems to be suggesting that humans created that nature created particle accelerators.
No. I'll let you finish. We'll get into it in a bit.
I think his discussion of my proof about particle accelerator really missed the point.
Again, possible. I'll let you expand on the point, and then we'll see.
I know that particle accelerators are made by man.
I know you do. My point was in response to you saying that if we see something complex like a particle accelerator, we must say that it was made by an intelligent actor just because it's complicated. The reason I started talking about why we wouldn't assume that, for example, particle accelerators are a natural outcome of natural phenomena is to point out that the reason that we assume that it was made by humans is that it has features that we know are made by humans, and we have actual affirmative reasons to believe that it was made by intelligent beings, in this case specifically humans. I was trying to say the reason we believe it's made by an intelligent being isn't because we must do that simply on the basis of complexity, but that we do that because of the evidence we have for where it actually came from. This is the kind of thinking that enables us to recognize the difference between, say, a mountain, which people used to think had to be created by gods, but now we understand are created by plate tectonics and other geologic events, and a particle accelerator or a car or a house or what have you. When we withhold judgment and require evidence as to the actual origin of some object, it leads us to greater understanding. To be able to distinguish between complex objects which are intentionally created and complex objects which are not. And that's the distinction I was trying to make, the two different ways of approaching the same question.
And my point is that the atom is even more difficult to create than a particle accelerator.
It's more difficult for humans to create. It's certainly not more difficult to arise naturally because, of course, a particle accelerator is made of atoms, each of which, assuming they originally did not exist in that form, which we will agree on, had to coalesce into that form and then into the very precise configuration of a particle accelerator, for which there appears to be no known natural process which can lead to it, and which has an explanation which we already understand, which is creation by humans. Neither of which is the case with the atom. There are fairly solid natural explanations for the origin of atoms within the universe, and there's no contradictory evidence that points to some living entity having created them. There's no apparent reason to assume that they were created by something like a human. So again, this is why I was pointing out the distinction between our two approaches. Your approach, where complexity must imply intelligent design, and my approach, which is the scientific approach, where complexity only implies complexity until you understand the situation better.
Therefore, it must be made by someone greater than man.
No, again, because complexity does not imply that I must assume intelligent design, because I know of so many examples of complexity within the natural world where there appear to be no real reasons to assume intelligent design, and where there are very good natural explanations, you've lost me already. And again, that was the point I was trying to make in response to you before. I really don't think that I missed your point. In fact, I think it's more accurate to say you missed mine. And I will take some responsibility for that, because I'm not sure that I phrased it entirely as clearly as I should have.
That's my only point.
I know, and that was the point that I addressed in my original response in the segment from around 2 minutes and 46 seconds onward. And I think it holds up reasonably well, so I don't feel much more need to talk about it.
He points out that he used the word complex, and that's a funny word to use about atoms. I know that atoms are elemental stuff of existence, but he is aware of subatomic particles, so why is he not putting that together?
Yes, I'm aware of subatomic particles, and atoms are still not complex in comparison to a particle accelerator. Not at all. The atomic structure is extremely simple.
If there's subatomic particles, and they're working together to create a functioning atom, so why doesn't that make it extremely complex? I mean, atoms they have subatomic particles, and they're doing all kinds of crazy things.
They're not crazy things. In fact, they seem to be just inevitable results of the basic physical properties of this universe. The existence and properties and behaviors of atoms are dictated pretty directly by the nature of reality itself. They seem hard to understand for us because we don't operate at the atomic scale. But of course, the measure of complexity is not how unintuitive something seems to a human being. What makes atoms behave in such apparently odd ways from our perspective is that they're so small and so simple that they fail to kind of abstract away in their complexity the true nature of the fundamental forces of nature. In the simplicity of an atom, you can see far more clearly the true nature of things, or at least maybe see a little bit further towards that true nature. But because of our incredible complexity, all of that kind of gets obscured. What seems normal to us is the product of layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of increasing complexity. That's not the norm at the simplicity of the smallest scales in the universe. Now, of course, I'm not saying atoms have no complexity. Yes, they're composed of particles, but they're composed of particles with a predictable structure, which is as predictable as it is because it's the direct result of physical forces with basically no abstraction. It can get simpler, but they're pretty damn simple.
And you have an atom that comes out of that. That's pretty complex. It's almost like its own little universe.
No, it really isn't. Just because it has things that are drawn round in the textbooks and they interact with each other isn't really enough for me to say it's like a little universe. It doesn't have any of the chaos and randomness and complexity of this actual universe. And that's because it's not a universe, it's one of the simplest components of this universe.
It's a very complex stuff.
Again, I disagree. I think it's a bad example for what you want to demonstrate. But there are, of course, things in this universe that I would say are validly considered complex. And yet again, I see no reason why I must consider those things to imply or require intentional causation. Now, this entire argument that we've been on for the last few minutes basically stems entirely from the assumption of the validity of the assertion that complexity must imply intelligence, and we haven't got there. Like, you're there, but I'm not, so we kind of have to cover that first, and your 25 proofs did not cover that first. I'm not sure that it even covered it at all, which is strange because that's one of the fundamental premises upon which you base a lot of your arguments.
And we know that because you mentioned subatomic particles, you're just not putting it together.
I'm putting it together, I'm putting all the subatomic particles together, and I'm seeing the simplicity of the atom, and therefore rejecting your assertions about its extreme complexity. And then I'm rejecting your assertions about what I must believe about intelligent design in the face of observed complexity.
To me, the fact that the world finds a balance, which you talk about, seems to be the product of an intelligent creator of the world, rather than no creator of the world.
Okay, I think I have a lot to say about that, but I'll let you go on, and then we'll see.
Because even a child can see there's something.
Stop with the argumentum ad childum. It doesn't work. Argumentum ad infantum, I don't know.
Even a child
Argumentum ad infantum. Nice.
Okay, so there's a counter assertion there. An assertion that you're making implicitly without stating it, which is the opposite of what you're saying. So if balance is a mark of intelligence, if that shows that the thing was intelligently designed, then imbalance is a mark of unintelligence, right? So then the assertion is that in an unintelligent universe, a lack of deer should not lead to starvation of wolves who then die off and then make room for more deer. Instead, in the world lacking deer, the wolves should simply multiply and multiply and multiply until they take over the earth and then the entire universe, because balance doesn't matter, right? Resources, scarcity, economy, those can only have influence if there's somebody intelligent controlling them from the top. The wolves don't die because there's no food, the wolves die because someone decided the wolves have to die. Or alternatively, somebody made there be no food because they wanted the wolves to die. That's sounding dangerously close to a conspiracy theory about how the world is run, just saying. What reason is there to assume that resource scarcity cannot be a thing in the natural world? Resource scarcity is the reason for balance. It's what prevents life from Earth from just exploding out and filling up the universe. It's the reason why life is a constant competition and you never really seem to have an absolute winner, certainly not in all environments at all times, and even if you do have an absolute winner within an environment, that's not a permanent fixture. That's all the result of resource scarcity. That's the
Oh my god. I just realized I can learn grants. Oh, like I'm almost able to learn level 15 grants.
Why?
Oh, that will be fun.
Resources are just to be used with basic economics. Economic activity does not require some central planner. You know,
That will be a lot of fun.
Before, but I have heard arguments based on the implication of this a number of times. The implication that in a natural universe, all things should be possible because balance won't be a thing. And then people say things like, okay, well, if humans, on average, over history, have had, say, 4 children per couple, you know, toss an exponent on a number, and here you go, there's the number of humans we should have had after 1,000,000 years. But that's more humans than there are atoms in the universe. We would have filled it all up. No, we wouldn't, because there's not enough resources in the universe for that to happen. That should have been implied by the statement that there's not enough atoms in the universe, but apparently it wasn't. Those of you who've seen my Science in the 12th Century videos, I think the second one or the third one, know exactly what I'm talking about here. And I think I've also seen that argument more recently. But it's a really interesting assumption. I don't understand why you would make it. There appears to be no reason to. Maybe you can explain it to me sometimes, I don't know. But as of now, I see no reason to make that assumption and a lot of reasons not to.
Atoms were not caused by scientists, but there's also no reason to believe they're caused by anyone else. In other words, you're saying just because we don't know where something came from doesn't mean it came from God.
Right.
Well, we all agree, post-creation, that creation didn't come out of nothing. It came from somewhere, something.
Well, except for redwood trees, Christianity, and the state of Israel.
And if we just examine the atom, what conclusion are we to draw? What is a rational conclusion to draw from that?
If you just examine the atom, you should draw the structure of the atom, and that's probably about it.
We would draw the conclusion that it came from something, that it came from intelligence.
Why? You say that kind of thing a lot. I don't know why. I mean, it sounds like you kind of just assume so, because you wanna. You're not really giving me a lot to lead me to your conclusion.
And we call that God, but you don't have to call it God. You call it Zeus, you call it Buddha. It doesn't really matter.
At this point, no, you're right, it really doesn't. We're talking about something for which the evidence presented in support of its existence appears to be just gotta be true. It's gotta, I assume so. So you're right, we're not really at the point where naming the thing is relevant.
You have an unknown. And this is the point that you don't understand. We're not saying because of the atom, it must be, the God of Sinai. It must be the God of the Bible. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that proves that God.
Right, but you're saying it proves a God, and I don't agree. You know I'm an atheist, right?
What we're saying is we have an unknown here.
No, what you're saying is we have an unknown here, and therefore I know.
There appears to be an unknown. You know it's an unknown, and I know it's an unknown. The scientists know it's an unknown. I know it's an unknown. We all know and agree that it's unknown how the atom got here and how it wound up so unbelievable the way that it is.
Yep.
To be honest, I don't think
The first true thing he said so far,
uncertain,
basically.
maybe, as in lacking in absolute certainty, because that's what science is. But the origin of particles and atoms is definitely not in the no idea category. What exactly do you think they're doing with those particle accelerators?
The religious person is just saying, let's learn more about that unknown.
Well, we know about the ones that are around us right now, but we do not know where they originally came from. Like, not at all. And we probably never will know.
No, those are just more ways to say, again, I don't know, therefore I'm right.
Learn about the unknown. That's what learning is. It's the essence of learning, to learn about that which is unknown.
Yeah, that's what science is for. And that's why religion in this sense is so annoying, because it teaches that actual learning is stupid, and just asserting whatever you feel like and making assumptions is the best way to truth.
We know it's something. There's something out there. You know that and I know that. There's something out there. The world cannot be explained by random events. It's just not possible.
There's something out there. You know that and I know that. Can you stop telling me I know the stuff you think? You say the world cannot be explained by random events. Well, science doesn't explain the world by random events. That's the whole point of science. It's not random. That's why you can make predictions, perform an experiment, and get a predicted outcome, because it's not random. Chemistry isn't random, natural selection isn't random, plate tectonics aren't random, the way stars produce different kinds of atoms isn't random, the formation of atoms and particles isn't random. Sure, maybe the specific details, like which atom is produced where in which star, which particular species of life are going to evolve after 1 million years, in which area of space-time any particular particle is going to originate. But those details are so difficult to predict as to be what we would consider random. But the overall processes are very predictable. You can observe them and calculate about them and think about how we think they might work, and then observe them some more and see if what we predict actually comes true. The power of science is not in having explanations. The power of science is in predicting the future and being right. When you understand something well enough through the scientific method, you can predict the future and be very confident in your likely success. And the reason you can do this is because the way the universe works is non-random. And non-random does not mean intentional. Non-random means predictable. And science enables us to identify the broad strokes of that predictability. This is an enormous misconception that some religious people have, that the alternatives are intentional or random. And since generally science isn't proposing intentional causation, it must be proposing random causation for everything. The whole universe must just be the equivalent of the infinite improbability drive from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Just totally unpredictable stuff happening for no reason at all times. And that's the scientific explanation for why things are the way they are. I don't know how such a misconception is even possible, but it's incredibly common.
The balance, the harmony, the majesty, the beauty, it just doesn't naturally lend itself to the conclusion that is caused by random events. Lends itself to the conclusion that it was done purposely.
Because it isn't random.
Most of
Which
your
he just said that.
arguments in this video have been very simple, and they all come down to one basic thing, which is that thing that you're not convinced is intentional actually has to be intentional because look at it. It's obvious. I've said a few times throughout this video, why? Like you just say through this video, this shows intention, that shows intention. Yeah, but that's just saying it. You're not giving me a reason, you're just saying it. That's not going to convince me. How can that convince me if I'm not already convinced?
So that's what we believe. So we look at the unknown, we say, well, it must be purposeful, it must be intelligent, it must be big, it must be strong, it must be powerful, it must be wise.
Right, you look at the unknown and you say, now let me tell you all about it. Because you assume it's gotta be that some guy wanted it that way, and you assume that for no apparent reason that I can discern. From the outside looking in, this appears for all the world like just pure wishful thinking.
based on what we see in the world, we gather more and more evidence as to what that unknown is.
Okay, can I have some? Because up to this point, all I've got are assertions that all of science is wrong and you're right because you said so. Look, if you want to get me on board, you have to actually get me on board. You can't just kind of pretend I already am. I mean, do that if you want, but it's probably not going to have the outcome you want.
And by the way, you're realize that you're always on the defense.
Am I? What am I even defending? I don't think I even have a goal.
Because we're bringing evidence that God exists. And
Right, you're attempting to defend the validity of the belief in God. Go ahead.
all you do is try to tear down that evidence.
Tearing down sounds kind of offensive in the sense of me being on offense. I mean, not that it matters. Ultimately, in arguments, everyone is in the position of defending their own position. That's half the point. The other half, of course, being tearing down the other guy's position.
But then we just bring more evidence and more evidence. We can bring the watch. We can bring the rainbow. We can bring the atom. We can just keep bringing more and more and more. You have to
Every single thing you say is stupid.
You have to knock down every
Pretty
single
much.
we throw up, but you're
Just
not gonna win.
stop.
I can just gish gallop until I run out of time, throw a massive heap of terrible evidence in my face and hope that I don't have time to respond to all of it. Are you sure that's the best way to convince people? It's kind of the same thing as your video with the 25 proofs. It's like, yeah, there were 25, but they all sucked. One good one would have been better than all 25 put together. And the fact that you admit to just laying out unbelievably huge numbers of arguments that are as easily knocked down as bowling pins says a hell of a lot about your position and, frankly, your attitude towards the truth.
Because there's so much evidence that something like God exists that you will never be able to totally debunk all the evidence that we can bring, all the suggestions that the world has that the world was created by an intelligent creator.
So if you're able to throw out such an extreme quantity of bad arguments that it just runs out the clock, you win? So if I don't address even one of the possible arguments for God, you win by default. Does that go the other way? Because I believe I can present you with several million pages of evidence for evolution, quite literally, or for the natural origin of atoms, or the earth, or for the non-existence of God and the falsity of your religion. You know, take your pick. If I did that, I'm sure there'd be tons of crappy arguments in there. Maybe some good ones too, but hey, they're all equal. How much time have you spent addressing all of those? Because if there's even one you haven't addressed, then they're all right and you're entirely wrong. Doesn't even matter how bad the one you missed is. You missed it, so I'm right and you're wrong. La la la. I mean, your rules.
So I hope you'll think about what I said and
Okay, give me a second.
You should think about what you said, dude.
a couple topics that I know we can go back
Oh
and
my
forth.
god.
I know we can't go back and forth about 25 topics. So let's just go back and forth about
None of the things you say are thought about by yourself. Just
Let's go with that one.
stop, please.
try to understand that we're not
Also,
saying
projection.
the God of the Bible.
Okay, give me a second. Done.
Trying to say the atom proves there's something out there with intelligence and power.
Yes, I know. That's the interpretation of your argument I've been operating on from the start. That's the interpretation I disagree with. You've got an observation, the atom. You've got a conclusion. There's something out there with intelligence and power. And what you're missing is the argument part in the middle. The part that connects that observation, that premise, to the conclusion. Because I assume so, or because I assert so, is not an argument. It's not even part of one. It's not even the start of one.
And now let's begin the process of trying to determine what that is and has he revealed himself in any way at any time.
We're not even close to that point. This video started us off at square one, and somehow, within the first few minutes, we moved backwards. And that's where we're at now. We can't move onto squares 2 and 3 and 4 until we get off square like -1 that we're sitting on right now.
Has he shown us his will? Has he shown us what he wants from us? Does he have a purpose for us?
Until you get me on board with your basic idea, I don't fucking care.
And that's what religion is about. Finding that unknown, finding that purpose.
Right, religion is about exactly what I've always thought it was about, which is looking at an unknown, saying you know everything about it, and then making that your purpose in life. That's foolish. I'm not going to do that.
And hopefully people come to the conclusion that I've come to, which is that it's all about the Torah, the Bible, the 7 Noahide laws, that kind of stuff. I hope people will reach that conclusion. That's sort of what I push. That's what I'm trying to get out there.
Good luck.
But just realizing that there's an unknown is a big step into itself. Realizing there's something out there and I don't know what it is and I want to search for it. And it's important because it's true.
Yeah, that's science. That's what science is. I agree that that's cool, but it doesn't lead me anywhere close to where you're at.
I want to know what that unknown is all about. I want to know what that unknown wants from me if it wants anything.
No, you
I would
don't.
assume that the fact that you don't know the origin of the universe means somebody wants something from you. That's bizarre.
So I hope you will join me in the search for the unknown, because that's what we both want to know about. In true learning, in true respect of each other and of humanity. And together, may the religious people and the atheistic people come together in their shared values of belief in the unknown and the belief in data and evidence.
You know, the way you say it sounds really great, and
No, it sounds super creepy and weird.
respect each other and have a nice time and be interested in questions is great. But unfortunately, the religious half of this partnership regularly shows that they have no intention of holding up their end of the bargain of actually looking for the truth. It appears
Also, yeah.
so much that all they have are presuppositions. And look, if you don't think that's true about you, I think you would be wise to take another look and maybe ask yourself some hard questions. Now, look, I'll say this sincerely. I like you. You seem like a nice guy. The way you've conducted yourself in this video, I think, was excellent. I think that was exactly the right way to approach something like this, the most effective way. Granted, I think your arguments are bad, but I think that your way of presenting yourself and putting yourself forward is very good. You seem like a guy who would be nice to hang out with, even with arguing. I mean, arguing can be a very pleasant way to pass the time if everyone's just sort of having a good time with it. However, that won't prevent me from saying that this stuff you're doing, the way you approach questions of fact, is comical, and I can't respect it. Sorry, just being honest with you.
Because we do not deny science in any way. We believe in science.
No, come on. I'm not falling for that at this point. Your entire worldview is a complete denial of the entire foundation of science. I mean, you're proposing that events must either be intentionally caused or utterly random. That alone is a complete denial of the ability of science to learn anything in any capacity to any degree whatsoever. You don't have to pay lip service to it. I know science is incredibly influential because of its abilities, because of its ability to predict the future and to be so right about so many things. But you can just be religious. It's okay. You don't have to be scientific and religious. You can just be religious. That seems to be where your heart is. You might as well just follow it.
And we just know that science actually lends itself towards a belief in a higher power. And
But-
we see that, and you seem to not be able to see that.
No, you're right. I'm not able to see that at all. And I have
Because
to
it's
say you haven't
nonsense.
helped with that. In fact, if your goal was to get me to see that, well, I see that less now than I did before. Seems like every video I respond to has that problem.
So, I hope you will merit to see that soon, and I look forward to your reply. God bless.
Sure, well, have a nice day. Well, that went actually really well. I quite like that. It was very pleasant. I think I might do his next one. We'll see. So thanks for watching, and if you would, before you go, please give the video a like and click subscribe if you haven't. If you really like the channel, please do consider supporting with even like a couple bucks a month. It helps a huge amount. And enormous thanks as always to all of my supporters who've made that choice. If you want early access, sign up to the email list at list.logic.com, and I'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, we're back with part 2
No,
of this
no,
little series,
no,
which I'm
shut up.
Are you tired of this happening to you? You finally get the chance to pressure your opponent, but of course they wake up with an EX Shoryuken. So instead, the next time you approach them, you decide to bait that wake up Shoryuken, and of course they instead wake up with a grab. Well, you can in fact stop both of these options by simply walking up to them on the knockdown and then leaving a bit of space. If they go for the EX Shoryuken, you can get a big punish, and if they whiff the throw with enough practice, you can react in time and punish as well. Just make sure to optimize your combo to make the punish really hurt. Are you tired of this happening to you? You finally get the chance to pressure your...
We thank you, Father God, in the name of Jesus, for bringing our rightful president back. Father God, protect him.
Yeah, this is Julie Green. She is a Trump cult leader. She is literally crying over Donald Trump coming back into office right now, while praying about it. She has seamlessly melded religion with politics when she started considering Donald Trump basically a new messiah. Deeply weird stuff. Oh my god. How did she get to this point? For real. She actually seems to revere the entire Trump family as anointed, holy in some unique, special way, more than most people. I don't know. She did an interview with Eric Trump the other day, which you can see just like a quick screenshot of right here. And it got strange, to be perfectly honest. It got honestly strange. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction to this woman. And then we're going to listen to some excerpts from her interview with Eric Trump. And oh my god, it gets weird. One more thing about this woman, if you're unfamiliar with who she is. She was famously the campaign prophet, official campaign prophet of the Doug Mastriano campaign. Doug Mastriano is a far-right, extremist QAnon political candidate. He was a candidate for governor of Pennsylvania in 2022 midterms. He lost, luckily. I think Wolf won or Shapiro won, one of the two. One of them was the previous governor, and the other one is the one that beat him. Well, anyway, luckily he lost against the Democratic candidate to be governor of Pennsylvania. That would have been a complete train wreck. But she was his official campaign prophet, and as official campaign prophet, she prophesied that Nancy Pelosi was going to be before the 2022 midterms. Now that didn't happen, obviously. She was attacked, but she was not. So that's clear as day, a false prophecy, right? They're going to pretend that it was a hit rather than a miss, because that's what they did. That's what people like Julie Green do on a regular basis. So anyways, without further ado, let's listen to her literally cry over Donald Trump. Check this out. Early November 2022.
We thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving us our country back.
She's saying it as though Trump already took office back. This is November 2022. Trump is not in office.
We thank you, Father God, in the name of Jesus, for bringing our rightful president back. Father God, protect him.
She's
God.
too emotionally invested in this. Too emotionally invested. You should not be this emotional over something like this. This is entirely too much.
Father God, protect him. But also give him, Father God, let him know that he's not alone. That he hasn't been abandoned by you or any of us.
Us being QAnons who agree with Julie Green's worldview.
Let him feel your presence, Father God. Let our rightful president take his place back where it rightfully belongs to him. We stand here, Father God, and we thank you and praise you.
Jesus. It is so cringy. It's like, I don't know how you guys react to cringe. Let me know how you react to cringe in the comments. But I react to cringe like this in one of two ways. Either I just want to straight up vomit, or I can feel my face imploding in on itself, you know, like I just licked a lemon and it's so like sour that like my face is just gonna crumble in like a black hole. Anyway, that's the feeling I get when I listen to Julie Green talking. So that is by no stretch of the imagination the only prophecy that she's given, or the only time she's cried about Donald Trump, or any of that stuff. This is pretty standard for Julie Green, actually. Check this out. Late August 2022, she goes on this show with this guy, and she talks about another prophecy that she gave involving Eric Trump. Listen to this.
And this is just God. Amanda Grace and it was praying over Eric.
Amanda Grace is another televangelist type. She claims to be a prophet, just like Julie Green. So
Grace and it was praying over Eric Trump. I was laying hands on Eric Trump.
No.
Vanessa and Clay were praying right in front of thousands of people there, streaming to millions. And while we're preying on Eric Trump, Adane Clement is filming two eagles flying above the tent at the exact same time. And that fulfilled a prophetic word you had. And what was that prophetic word?
Those, watch the eagles. I mean, once we see more of the eagles in the sky, and they're going to be a symbol that the eagle is going to rise again. And it is not, and I would have to go back and get both of them up, because there was a couple actually about eagles and how that is a symbol of our nation. So it's not a coincidence that you have the symbol of our nation. There was two of them.
What does any of this have to do with anything? Who cares? Okay, birds fly over things. Breaking news. Oh my god. Birds traverse over tents sometimes. Why is this such a groundbreaking, incredible, ordained by God situation we found ourselves in? I'm not picking up what they're putting down here. And why does it matter if there were two of them? Birds fly together sometimes. So what? This is not the type of thing that's like completely out of the ordinary, that is literally inexplicable, but for God. This isn't the type of thing that couldn't possibly happen unless God was involved. Not even close. This happens all the time. I don't understand why they care so much. Okay, let's keep listening to this. This is just bizarre, dude.
The symbol of our nation. There was two of them, and they're flying over the tent, not around anybody else when they were speaking. It was you guys praying over Eric, and obviously he's the son of our rightful president. So that is so profound that happened. And I was like, as soon as I found out and I saw the actual pictures, and I'm like, that's a prophecy being fulfilled. That is so prophetic.
Not really. Not at all, as a matter of fact.
It's pathetic, yes.
Or prophetic or anything about this situation. Right here is actually a video of it. Amanda Grace standing there with a microphone with her hand.
Did I miss?
Eric Trump. I think Eric Trump's back there. And some other people. I think this is Clay Clark in the back. I don't know who this dude is in the middle.
Apparently not.
I'm not sure who this other person is. Maybe Clay Clark's wife? I'm not sure. But they have their hands on Eric Trump because apparently they think that Eric Trump is like some special being that's like anointed by God to accomplish great things or some other nonsense. Seriously, this is like a death cult at this point. I'm telling you guys, they have an unhealthy, weird obsession with Donald Trump and his family. This is what happens when religion and politics mix inevitably. They turn them into religious figures. And it's no longer a case of, well, you know what, my guy didn't win the election, it is what it is, we'll move on. You know, I was really hoping my guy was gonna win, darn. It's not like that now. Now that it's seamlessly intertwined with religion, and now it's beyond the feeling of, say, being broken up with. Now it's a religious experience for your guy to lose. And if you know anything about religion, people will do literally anything to accomplish their goals. The ends justify the means mentality is most commonly found in religion. A willingness to do literally anything to get your guy in office or to, I don't know, stop abortion or whatever. The ends justify the means mentality is at its strongest in religion, and these people know that, and that's why they're trying to meld the two of them. So Julie Green has an interview with Clay Clark, who's been mentioned a couple times up to now. He's the organizer.
I still have not said. Oh wait, no, I can't even set a foot in ruins. I just
where this happened.
I just realized that.
Reawaken America tour originally, I believe. That's what we're looking at right here. So
I was just thinking 2 or 3 times over the last hour that maybe just try to set a foot in ruins and see how you deal 0 damage against Del Sabers and the Chaos Bringers or whatever. No wait,
they start getting into some
Chaos Bringers, the Shooty Boys.
What they had to say. Early December 2022. This is early.
Oh no, wait, those are actually Chaos and Death Bringers. Those are the like spider thingies. But I'm talking about the the ponies with the gun arm. Pretty sure I don't deal damage against both of them. Maybe, probably, I don't know.
Donald Trump Sr.
Also, the golems.
Is that what he said? Wow, I didn't think it was possible, but there is somebody that is just as delusional as Donald Trump Sr., and that is Eric Trump, his son. Okay. I can already see this interview is going to be the source of endless entertainment.
One of the things that God keeps saying to me over and over and over again, over and over.
Where can I get
is
God
to,
ability?
bring back your father in unconventional ways.
Wow. This is very obviously Julie Green mixing religion and politics, intertwining them, basically creating a new religion using the political system. She has effectively turned Trump, her political leader, into a religious leader now, a messiah. That's what we're looking at right now. She says God is going to bring her political leader back in an unconventional way. Fascinating. Well, in 5 years, when that hasn't happened, is she going to face accountability for that? Is she going to lose her listeners?
God technique.
Lose her believers? Of course not.
Oh,
They're gonna
no.
forget she ever said it. That's how all of this works. That's how she runs this grift that she runs.
Wait, no, that's
She
something
knows
else.
She can say pretty much anything, and people aren't going to remember that she even said it. But in 5 years, she's going to remember which ones hit and which ones missed. So she's going to pick out little clips the following year, or in a couple of years, or
What?
even a month later. She'll pick out clips of the correct things that she said, the correct guesses that she made, and she'll play them on air for everybody to listen to.
Oh,
Like,
God
I
hand.
remember her saying
Mm.
it, but she doesn't play the failed prophecies.
That's a
Interestingly enough,
weapon.
This is exactly how the Bible said people should determine if somebody is a false prophet or not. If they falsely prophesy,
So
if they
are
lie,
the
if they claim they heard God's voice,
these items, are they just
they should
random?
surely
Can
be
everybody
looked at,
find them?
Quote unquote. Not that I advocate for that. I'm just saying the Bible says there should be consequences for it. And it says, how do you
Seems
know
like
if
it.
somebody comes along and is prophesying falsely that it's not in my name? If it doesn't come true, they spoke presumptuously. It wasn't me giving them the message, basically, is what that says. Deuteronomy 18 something or other, I think, is where that's from. We have like a billion examples of Julie Green flat out, blatantly lying. She claims she heard God's voice. She did not. A blatant lie. And she still has followers to this day. Blows me away that people don't see this grift for what it is, honestly.
And he keeps saying that over and over and over again. We don't have to wait for a man's way of doing things like an election in order to bring somebody who is actually rightfully the elected president of the United States of America. I still call him president.
Yeah, except he wasn't the rightfully elected president. Don't you love how she just comes out and says this with absolutely no evidence? Zero? She has no evidence to claim that Donald Trump is the rightfully elected president. Well, her evidence is, of course, God told her. So, there's that. But as I feel I've adequately proven, nobody has any reason to believe her when she claims that God is talking to her.
Who's actually rightfully the elected president of the United States of America. I still call him president.
That's so cringy, dude. So cringy.
I will never call Biden president because he's not. I don't know exactly how God's going to do it. He doesn't give me that type of information, but he does.
He doesn't give her any information. I'm honestly surprised that she's claiming that he doesn't give her a certain specific type of information in the first place. You lied about the other stuff? Why not lie about this stuff too? I guess she doesn't lie about this one because she doesn't want to get too specific. I've noticed her whole MO with this lying about what she hears from God or whatever else. Her whole MO with that is she's really general. She doesn't get specific. She makes basic general claims, throws them out there into the ether. Herschel Walker will be in the news, and it will be a good thing. The recent hurricane will stir up things that you wouldn't expect it to stir up. No joke. These are things that she's actually prophesied. Those are so general, they could mean literally anything. They're like horoscopes. Horoscopes can mean anything to anybody. They're so general that any horoscope can apply to any person. It doesn't matter what month they were born or what star sign they are or whatever else. That's how she does things, and every now and then she gets really, really specific. And if those specific ones come true, she uses those to bolster her credibility. Like claiming that Nancy Pelosi is going to be before the 2022 midterms. Didn't come true, obviously, but she's just going to pretend that didn't happen. She's going to pretend she didn't say it. Every now and then, rarely, but sometimes, she hits something dead on. She guesses something that's kind of unusual. Like, wow, can't believe that guess was correct. I mean, it's not astronomically crazy. It's not like miraculous that she would guess something like this. It's reasonable to guess. But every now and then she gets a guess correct that's kind of crazy, because you make enough guesses like that, you're going to hit the nail on the head every now and then. And she uses those to bolster her own credibility. That's how it works. Anyway, I just don't understand why she's making this claim God doesn't talk to her like that. Is it because somebody was looking for an answer and she doesn't know what the answer's going to be? I don't know.
Biden president because he's not. I don't know exactly how God's going to do it. He doesn't give me that type of information, but he does give me the fact that what he is going to do is he's bringing him back. And I don't know how he's going to do that. I just know
She literally just said that. Okay, you're repeating yourself now, Julie.
I just know
Wait, where's
I can't wait
Skyline?
to see them fall, and I can't wait to see what God is going to do with you. So, if that's okay,
Julie, I would love it. That's beautiful. And by the way, I believe it 100%.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, I believe it 100%. Absolutely. I have no doubt that Eric absolutely believes this 100%. Because what he's saying is so super believable.
No.
This dude is ridiculous.
God takes
if
me.
that's okay,
Julie, I would love it. That's beautiful. And by the way, I believe it 100%.
Okay, I want to pray. So, Heavenly Father, right now, in the name of Jesus, we just lift up Eric.
Do you think she believed him when he said he believed her 100%? Just listen to her reaction again.
I believe it 100%.
Okay, I want to pray. So, Heavenly Father,
I think she did. I think she believed him. Seriously.
right now, in the name of Jesus, we...
Yeah, that's basically the end of the clip. But oh my god, dude. These people are off the hinges, for real. This is deeply entertaining to me. I love this to death. Because they're so out there. Oh my god. Okay. When I find these clips, I don't necessarily watch them all the way through. I just have a general idea of what they're about. Like, I compile them into, like, these big compilations with, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 clips. Basically 5 to 6 minutes worth of clips, generally, is how I do it. I compile them into one big compilation, and then I play them for you. But I don't necessarily watch them before playing them. I have a general idea of what they're about. Like, this one right here, this is the compilation that I threw together for Julie Green, right? This one I know is titled Julie Green Says Two Bald Eagles Flying Over Reawaken America Tour was one of her prophecies fulfilled. I know what it's about because, I read the description and I kind of skim through it and I title them a certain way and things like that. But I'm kind of going through a lot of these with you guys for the first time. And oh my god, I'm just so blown away by some of the shit they say. Absolutely unhinged. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. Alright, check this one out. Same interview, early December 2022. Julie Green is going to continue... I don't know, what is it that she's doing with Eric Trump right now? Just fawning over him, I guess. She's fawning over the dude. So keep listening as she fawns over Eric Trump. Remember, she views him as the son of a prophet, or the son of a messiah, basically. Possibly even a messiah himself.
Is thank you for also standing up, and thank you for standing up for, the Lord and Christianity and just religious freedom in general.
These charts don't make sense.
Okay, Julie Green is...
Because I have this item. I'm not supposed to have this.
Being religious does not mean you're in favor of religious freedom. Not even a little bit. Remember, she's the campaign prophet of Doug Mastriano. That dude was a complete nutter butter. He is a QAnon extremist. They are not in favor of religious freedom. They're in favor of religious theocracy. They don't believe...
But I'm pretty sure I got my God item out of a very hard something. I think it was... Oh no, wait, I do remember where I got it from.
Force you to be
No, wait,
an
nah.
evangelical Christian.
I remember
Not
where I
just
got
a
Elf
Christian,
Arm plus plus from.
evangelical one.
That was
Talking
the
like
mines.
hardcore extremist.
But where did I get
fundamentalist
God
Baptist
Arm
type of
from?
person. I call them witches for Jesus, actually, because they have some really unique religious views about witchcraft and things like that. It basically goes
Basically,
up
I'm just
to
trying to
the
figure out where I can get God ability from, because God ability is
many
just...
other people like this have this idea that
I really
witchcraft
want it.
is around every corner. But
God
they
ability
are
and
capable
devil
of
technique.
performing
Or no,
the same
devil...
arts that witches can perform. Witches like telekinesis, and
Devil...
fortune-telling and divination, and you know,
What is
all
it called?
stuff they claim witchcraft can do for you.
Devil
just think that
battle.
they're getting their power from God.
Or whatever the
Vicious
equivalent of this is.
a verse
No, I
of
think it's
Exodus.
actually called devil
If you
technique.
remember, Aaron and Moses went to see Pharaoh to warn him about God.
I don't know, whatever. The better version of this.
Or you're gonna pay consequences or something. And Moses and Aaron brought their staffs to Pharaoh, threw them on the ground. They turned to snakes to show their power, show that they have God behind them. They're capable of doing parlor tricks or whatever, right? Pharaoh brings in his wise men and his sorcerers, and they do the same. They throw their staffs on the ground, they turn to snakes, and blah, blah, blah. But Moses and Aaron's snake staffs turn around and nom up the wise men's snake staffs, thus making a point that God and Satan can give you the same supernatural powers. It's just God's supernatural powers are more powerful than the ones that Satan gives people. So they believe that witches exist in society, and they're running around getting into all kinds of shenaniganery, doing whatever. And they think that, and Julie Green believes that she is capable of doing all the same shenaniganery, but she's more powerful because the power is coming from God rather than Satan. That's kind of her worldview. That's why I call her a witch for Jesus, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, they want to turn you into a witch for Jesus by force. They don't believe in religious freedom. Never did. It was always about control. Forcing people to do what they want them to do. Forcing them to believe the way that they believe. They have rolled back religious freedom, like dramatically, in the United States. This statement from Eric Trump couldn't possibly be less true.
Religious freedom in general, something that is massively attacked right now, and it's something that I'm actually pretty convinced. I'm gonna get hit for saying this, but
such a victim. I'm gonna get hit for saying this. Hit by who? Who's going to hit you for talking about religious freedom? Seriously.
Coming out of Obama, where we were losing massive religious liberty in this country, massive. You could hardly say.
Can you? I was about to say, can you give me an example? But I know he's about to. Listen to this example he gives us.
You could hardly say Merry Christmas without being shunned, because you might offend somebody who wasn't
true. Completely made up. It is not true at all. There is literally nothing true about this. Nobody threw a fit about saying Merry Christmas. I love Christmas. It's like my favorite holiday of all time, because I didn't get to celebrate it when I was little. So I celebrate it now. I go all out. I do everything I can. I get crazy gifts. And I build a humongous tree and everything. Well, I live in a little apartment right now, so I couldn't have a humongous tree. But I do have a tree. And it goes up preferably a couple days before Halloween. Matter of fact, check it out. Right there it is, behind me. I put up a tree as soon as I possibly can, because I love Christmas so much. It's the best. People on the left do not hate Christmas. At no point in time was Christmas ever banned as a word or a phrase or a holiday or anything. They constantly live in persecution land.
Christian or believe. It's crazy. I'm not sure if organized religion would not be what it is right now if it wasn't for Donald Trump. And he made, a lot of people are, well, is he a religious guy? Yeah, he's a religious guy. He might not have worn it on his shirt sleeve the way that.
Just because there's some crazies that actually, yes, there is probably a few people that are like, I don't like Christmas, don't.
That is a.
That doesn't mean that that's the norm.
There's nobody who's done more for religious freedom than Donald Trump. There's nobody who's done more for religion than Donald Trump. Well, I would say maybe Jesus did more for religion than Trump, but that's just me. Just a little old atheist over here pointing things out. My mistake. Maybe I'm wrong. Forgive me. Don't chop my head off if I'm wrong here. That is, you know, I would call this a delusion of grandeur. This is like delusion territory. The idea that you believe that you or your dad or whoever else has done more for religious freedom or for religion than any human being alive is straight up delusion. How can you possibly say something like that with a straight face? This blows my mind.
Martin Luther did more.
And Julie Green over here,
Martin
campaign prophet
Luther.
for Doug Mastriano, is just nodding along. Yeah, sure. I agree, yeah, see?
Probably no one that's done more for religious freedom.
She's just agreeing. I mean, Donald Trump's been saying this for like ever. This is not the first time this came up either. Late September 2021, he went on Flashpoint and he said this to the Flashpoint crew.
There are between 90 and 100 million evangelicals in America. And as you know, our Flashpoint audience is highly motivated part of that group. What's your message to them? How should they stay engaged with you and the nation during this tumultuous time?
So nobody has done more for Christianity or for evangelicals or for religion itself.
Really? Nobody has done more for Christianity or religion or evangelicals than Donald Trump. Again, I figured Jesus would have been a good answer to that question, but okay, I guess Donald Trump works too. I'm telling you guys, this is indistinguishable from delusion. I don't say that lightly. You know, what does differentiate full-blown delusion caused by mental illness from what we're observing here? In reality, delusion is caused basically by a brain state, right? There's a chemical imbalance or something that's a little bit different about how the brain operates with somebody who's experiencing a delusion of grandeur, a paranoid delusion, or any other type, like hallucinations or whatever. There's some chemical imbalance that can hopefully, usually, be corrected with medicine. But in this case, with people like this, who we don't really know for sure if it comes down to a brain state or not, presumably medicine would not solve that problem. They would have to be talked out of it. And in the case of real full-blown psychiatric delusion, like with somebody who has schizophrenia or something, they can't be talked out of it. They need medicine. That's really the difference between the two. When you're dealing with somebody who has actual delusional experiences as a result of a mental condition versus somebody who is just obsessed with themselves or has been brainwashed or something like that. Hypothetically speaking, you should be able to talk that person out of it, and medicine wouldn't resolve the problem. But they are indistinguishable from each other. You cannot tell if one is caused by brainwashing or the other is caused by a lack of medicine or whatever else. They look exactly the same in reality. So I don't know if Donald Trump or Eric Trump or any of these other people have a mental condition that's causing these delusions, but they are delusions. Are they caused by a mental condition? I don't know. They are indistinguishable, though. Check this next clip out from the Julie Green interview with Eric Trump.
And so this was like right after I've heard so many on your dad. I could be here all day, but he had one on you. And so the Lord said, Eric Trump.
Oh, I guess she's about to tell Eric a prophecy about him. Okay.
Eric Trump, he said, my son, I know there are many things you don't understand when it comes to the works of my hands. I will show you and give you great revelations of who I am. Trust in me even when you don't see. I am moving. I am delivering. I am restoring all that has been stolen and all that has appeared to be lost. I will not fail you. I will not fail your father. And I will not fail this nation. Saith the Lord.
Okay, so it's just complete nonsense. It means nothing. It's just empty, vacuous, vapid air that she's spitting out of her mouth right now. It's just saying, I won't fail you. Okay, great. Who gives a Let's hear Eric's response, because that's the important part.
That was
I can't tell you how much I believe. And first of all, thank you. And I can't tell you how much I believe it. There are interesting things that happen, and you're sitting there sometimes at night, and you're...
Oh, God, this is painful. I can't tell you how much I believe it. Is that what he just said in response?
Almost in a daze, and believe me, I've had plenty of those days. I can't tell you how many arrows we've taken as a family in the back from every angle, from angles you never thought could have existed.
He's trying to co-opt his dad's verbiage, the way that he talks, because he sees that that's kind of popular. In reality, the thing that made Donald Trump popular was his witty comebacks. Trump said things like, the system is rigged against you. In a debate with Hillary, I think. He said, the system's rigged against you. I know that it's rigged because I used that system to get rich. And I know that you're not going to try to stop that system because you're the one that's using it and blah, blah, blah. It was populist language, basically, calling people out for being corrupt. When in reality, Trump was, I would say,
just
damn
as
near
corrupt,
the most
even
corrupt
though,
president we've ever seen in our lifetime. I guess I can't say the most corrupt, but because there have been some bad ones, like Nixon, but he was pretty bad too. Anyway, you can totally tell Eric is trying to co-opt his dad's language, when that's not what made his dad popular in the first place. It was the things that he said, not really the way that he said it. It's just the way that Trump said things caught on. That's all.
One of those days, I can't tell you how many arrows we've taken as a family in the back from every angle, from angles you never thought
From angles you never thought. That's a Trumpian way to say it.
Existed. And then something happens the next day, and something kind of magical happens that totally kind of counteracts that. If that happened once or twice or 3 times or 4 times, you'd say, okay, it could be nice kind of coincidence. It's happened too many times as probably beyond coincidental at this point. And
dude, what is he even talking about? I've completely lost track of the conversation here. I have no idea what he's going on about.
And I fully believe it. I'm a incredibly spiritual person. I believe it in ways that maybe you can't even imagine. And there has been somebody watching over this journey. There's just no question about it.
I believe it in ways you can't even imagine. Great. Okay, totally believable that he believes it. This is just cringy, dude. When are these people gonna come back to reality? Ever?
Never.
I'm not convinced they will ever come back.
Of course not.
Oh my god, is it entertaining to sit here and listen to them go back and forth about about which one loves God more, or about which one has a message for the other from God, and all of this. God, it's so deeply entertaining. Let me know what you think about it in the comments.
Stuart's in Finchley. Stuart, what would you like to say?
Hi, James.
Hello, mate.
We spoke on the 5th of July last year.
Yeah.
I was a civil servant who, at that point in time, felt that things had become so dangerous with the lies that civil servants were being asked to speak on behalf of the government ministers, and particularly Prime Minister Boris Johnson at the time, had become so serious that we were living in a corrupt state. And
I remember it well, yes.
Yeah, I called you. The reason for my call that day was a heartfelt plea to senior civil servants in 10 Downing Street and the Cabinet Office to stop facilitating corrupt practices. Following that phone call, I was suspended from duties as a civil servant.
I didn't know.
I was suspended for 3 months while an investigation was ongoing. Throughout that investigation, I was made to feel like a traitor or an enemy of the state. That's how I felt. And ultimately, I was sacked following a 3-month investigation.
For the call to me?
Yes.
Crikey.
Yes.
I don't know what to say.
Credit plans is good? What? Nice.
There is trouble in paradise between Blizzard and China, ladies and gentlemen, with Blizzard games having gone offline recently across numerous franchises. So this was something that we knew would happen back in November of 2022 when it was announced here on the investor.activision.com website that Blizzard Entertainment and NetEase are suspending game services in China. Certain games will no longer be available at end of license with NetEase on January 23rd, 2023 due to the expiration of the current licensing agreements with NetEase. What that means is that a bunch of online games will be taken down and will no longer
but they
be
will
accessible
come back
in China
online.
until
Aww.
Blizzard finds a new partner to host these games. So titles that
God
will be
damn
affected
it.
include World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Warcraft 3 Reforged, Overwatch, StarCraft series, Diablo 3, and Heroes of the Storm. The only exception is Diablo Immortal, which is covered under a separate agreement between the two companies. But that aside, a bunch of other games will be taken down because the two parties have not reached a deal to renew the agreements that is consistent with Blizzard's operating principles and commitments to players and employees. Is how Blizzard's, or at least that's how Blizzard framed it. NetEase released their own statement that states, "We have put in a great deal of effort and tried with our utmost sincerity to negotiate with Activision Blizzard so that we could continue our collaboration and serve the many dedicated players in China. However, there were material differences on key terms and we could not reach an agreement." Now you can tell that the way this licensing deal fell apart has bred a lot of animosity and acrimony between the two entities. This was immediately noticeable when Simon Zhu, president of Global Investments and Partnerships of NetEase Games, posted the following on LinkedIn the day that the announcement was made that this partnership would be ending. "I feel so heartbroken as I'll no longer have access to my account and memories next year. One day when what has happened behind the scenes could be told, developers and gamers will have a whole new level of understanding on how much damage a jerk can make," essentially insinuating that this partnership falling apart was not NetEase's fault, but rather some jerk at Activision Blizzard. News outlet Bloomberg reported on this around the same time and offered additional insight, stating that key sticking points to the NetEase extension were ownership of intellectual property and control of the data of millions of players across China. While we don't have exact details on proposed deals, apparently these were major topics of contention that led to the deal falling apart. Not long after the announcement, NetEase's stock price fell as much as 15% in Hong Kong, its biggest intraday fall in more than a year. Bloomberg also makes it a point to highlight that the rift between Blizzard and NetEase was foreshadowed when back in summer of 2022 they scrapped plans for a World of Warcraft smartphone game that had been in development for 3 years. So the end result to all of this is that as of January 23rd, 2023, just a few days ago, many Blizzard games have gone offline. They are inaccessible right now in China, and without finding an alternative partner, Activision is unlikely to be able to continue its China business. With laws being what they are in China, foreign corporations have to partner with a Chinese-based company in order to be able to release video games. So unless Blizzard finds that partner, which I imagine they will at some point, the Blizzard games will remain offline. Now, going back to the animosity between Blizzard and NetEase, according to Tom Warren, he believes that the implied jerk that was mentioned by Simon Zhu may be referring to Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick. I don't know if journalist Tom Warren has heard something through the grapevines. I don't know where he got the assumption that the jerk Simon Zhu referred to is in fact Bobby Kotick, but Bobby Kotick is kind of a piece of shit, so, you know, it's not far-fetched, I suppose. Now, among the games that's getting taken down in China is World of Warcraft, which is, I mean, one of the most popular MMOs of all time. I don't have to tell you the impact that that'll have on the gaming community in China. And so one of the things that happened on December of 2022 was John Haidt here coming out and assuring players that they are going to find a way to ensure that people can keep their progress, so that when World of Warcraft does go back online in China, when Blizzard finds a partner, they'll be able to continue on without having to start over again, which obviously should be a top priority for Blizzard given the huge time and money investment that people put on World of Warcraft all these years. John Haidt assures here that we know you also want to make sure that your current in-game characters, progress, and items will still be with you on your future adventures in Azeroth. We're currently in conversations with a number of new potential distribution partners in China, and this process will continue until we find a suitable solution. World of Warcraft team is working hard to develop a feature that will allow you to save your character's items and progress in Azeroth to your personal devices before the game goes out of service on January 23rd. We expect that the transition to the new partner for the World of Warcraft CN service will go smoothly.
January 21st. That's in the past. That happened already.
We're likely going to find a partner soon, and World of Warcraft will likely go back up in the not-so-distant future. And they assure, secondly, that when that happens, we will have a method in place so that you can download your saved data, essentially. We saw that manifest on January of 2023 when people began to spread this screenshot that highlighted the process of downloading your game progress locally. And for security measures, they made it so that by downloading your game progress, your account will be immediately locked. You won't be able to use this account until it's restored in the future. Meaning that once you download your World of Warcraft game progress, your tenure with the game will be done until Blizzard finds a new distribution partner and the game goes back online after January 23rd. And the dates to follow would hear about more animosity and acrimony.
There will be a lot of hackers, or there is 100% a lot of hackers right now that try to manipulate those downloaded files.
Reportedly dismantling Blizzard iconography and openly mocking the studio internally on live streams as the partnership for Warcraft and Overwatch in China ends. Very weird situation. Bad look for NetEase, in my opinion. NetEase has not been shy about expressing their disdain against Blizzard. They've been super salty about all of this, and they have made a whole public display out of it, as detailed here by Daniel Camillo, who reported through this series of tweets about the terrible PR moves coming out of NetEase earlier today with retaliatory antics against Blizzard after their recent breakup in China. NetEase's cafe in Hangzhou renaming their green tea as Blizzard Green Tea, which relates to Chinese slang cream tea bitch. And the fact that it's 13 yuan also has implications. This is not accidental, says Daniel. 13 in Hangzhou dialect means something like idiot slash, I'm not going to say that word. So these are not low-key insults. This is very much blatant disrespect. They might as well give Blizzard the finger. And Daniel also reports that NetEase has been live streaming the dismantling of the Blizzard acts at NetEase's offices. According to inside sources, many of the company's staff are now being publicly hostile against Blizzard, with even NetEase releasing an article bashing Blizzard. NetEase is just being incredibly petulant about all of this. Not like I'm siding with any one company. This is very much a corporate dispute. But yeah, it's this is not something you see every day.
Imagine shilling for Blizzard in 2023. Dude, it tried in 2016, and we can talk about like things like this being like, yeah, interesting. Shilling for Blizzard in 2023 is just would just be pathetic.
Expressed support for Hong Kong, his own homeland, during an esports event and got banned for it, and Blizzard supported the Chinese overlords, essentially. Poorly H Things just straight up tweeted, all that anti-Hong Kong sucking up really paid off, huh? This is a tweet that immediately went viral with over 52,000 likes as of its publishing on January 24th. And there's footage right here from CNYer that shows what NetEase streamed and showed to the public, the dismantling of Blizzard iconography, just them tearing down this statue, essentially, and just going ham. I don't know what this text says, but I can't imagine it's anything all that flattering.
Did they destroy
And yeah, this kind of goes on.
a Blizz statue?
What this text says, essentially, down this,
Oh yeah, it's Gromash's axe.
what NetEase streamed and showed to the public, the dismantling of Blizzard iconography, just them tearing down this statue, essentially, and just going ham. I don't know what this text says, but I can't imagine it's anything all that flattering. And yeah, this kind of goes on for a bit. They're not holding back in this display of disrespect. This very much feels like a breakup where one side was upset enough where they just started burning any memorabilia from that relationship. And that finally brings us to a few days ago, January 23rd, 2023, when Overwatch was shut down in mainland China, when World of Warcraft went offline in China, alongside other popular franchises and titles like Overwatch, Diablo, and Hearthstone. And fans of Blizzard...
Yes, you did not say. You did not mention Heroes of the Storm.
Fan who said the two companies have taken players hostage.
Perfect.
He's not really taking a side. He's saying both of these corporations are being really shitty, and their little spat has really damaged the community and the players of Overwatch 2, Diablo 3, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Hearthstone, and Heroes of the Storm. Now,
No, not Heroes of the Storm. It's just 15 people that even play this game.
On January 16th, 2023 was that Blizzard
On a good
decided
day.
to extend the current deal by 6 months, but NetEase turned down the offer from US game publisher Blizzard to extend their China licensing agreement by 6 months. This was a proposal that Blizzard brought up on Tuesday, January 10th, but NetEase declined to take it up. A few days later, on January 18th, news outlet Reuters reported on NetEase's response to the 6 months extension proposal. NetEase apparently said that the proposal was commercially illogical and accused Blizzard of seeking a divorce but still remaining attached. Yep, they're definitely treating this like a bad breakup. NetEase further added that considering the non-reciprocity, unfairness, and other strict conditions attached to the cooperation, the parties could not reach an agreement in the end. While NetEase puts the blame on Blizzard, Blizzard seems to be putting the blame on NetEase in a more low-key way, as reported here by PC Gamer. The quote that we got from Blizzard here reads, "It is a pity that NetEase is not willing to extend services of our game for another 6 months on the basis of existing terms as we look for a new partner." Meanwhile, NetEase continued to express disdain against Blizzard by showing pictures and footage of them straight up demolishing their Blizzard offices, following updates from Blizzard Entertainment, which bemoaned their inability to negotiate a 6-month extension prior to the shutdown of Blizzard games in China. NetEase has issued a fiery response and tore down their local orc statue live on stream. And you can see right here.
This is so funny. Just literally going on a like 4-year-old rampage. Nice.
Escalated this month when NetEase accused its longtime partner of being rude and inappropriate.
If you don't do what I want you to do, I'm just gonna fuck up your shit.
When people find out what do in terms of damage,
perfect.
People will understand why things played out the way they did, but he still refuses to elaborate. News outlet CNN also reported on all of this and spotlighted harsh words shared by NetEase, who said that they felt blindsided by Blizzard's proposal of extending the deal by 6 months, calling it a sudden statement, and also accused the proposal of being outrageous, inappropriate, and not in line with business logic. And one factor that NetEase took umbrage with was the fact that as Blizzard proposed this extension, they had already started the work of finding new partners in China, putting NetEase in an unfair position, they called it. Which finally brings us to some closing statements from NetEase and Blizzard amidst the shutdown of these Blizzard games. On January 23rd, 2023, Simon Zhu posted the following love letter that essentially reminisces on his time with Blizzard Games only a few hours before Blizzard game servers shut down in China, and that is a very, very big deal for players in China. He talks about his own experiences and love for Blizzard Games before saying, "Today is such a sad moment to witness the server shutdown, and we don't know how things will play out in the future. The biggest victim would be players in China." Though he does take one last moment to appreciate some of our former employees like Mike Morhaime, Alan Adman, J Alan Brack, Chris Metzen, Ben Brode, Hamilton Chu, Jeff Kaplan, Dustin Broder, Michael Ryder, and plus thousands of people. Or actually, are these named employees all former employees? Maybe he's showing appreciation for the old guard of Blizzard while not appreciating the new guard. I don't know, either way. Meanwhile, on Blizzard's side of things, spokesperson Joe Kristinat said, "Activision Blizzard is grateful to our Chinese player community for the passion and creativity over the past 2 decades. Our commitment to players on mainland China remains strong as we continue to work with Tencent to distribute Call of Duty Mobile, as well as continue active talks with potential partners to resume gameplay for Activision Blizzard's iconic franchises," essentially saying that while Blizzard games are shut down now, we are pursuing other avenues, other distribution partners, in the hopes that they'll be able to get these games back online and resume operations in China. I have no strong feelings for either side. Both Blizzard and NetEase are corporations who I have little sympathy towards, but my condolences to Chinese players who just want to play video games and were caught in the crossfire of all of this. But yeah, for those who've been hearing rumblings about what happened with Blizzard games in China and wanted to have all of that information rounded up, hopefully this video has proven to be useful for you. So there you have it, folks. That's everything you need to know about this situation. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on this spat, this dispute between Blizzard and NetEase, and what do you think the future holds for Blizzard games in China. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
I love video games. They've been my main hobby for most of my life, and now I make videos about video games, which is great. But recently I've been analysing new games and critiquing new systems, and I've noticed a slow but insidious trend toward games becoming more and more monetized, but not fairly monetized. Anti-player monetized. It's the feeling you get when you look at a battle pass in a game you've already paid full price for. It's the tiny sliver of sadness when a game you want has different exclusive levels for different consoles, and you know you'll never get to experience every part of that game now. It's that cosmetic you want, costing 1,005 gems, but the gems are sold in packs of 1,004. It's the knowledge that year on year the microtransactions from FIFA Ultimate Team alone make more money than Elden Ring's entire sale run. It's the unfortunate reality of gaming after the marketing executives
That's so sad.
Explain exactly how or when
FIFA Ultimate bullshit makes more money than Elden Ring.
to the start of gaming and work out when this whole mess
Oh no, I'll get hit.
The specific design choice which makes new games feel wrong. Welcome, I'm Josh Strefface. Let's work out what the hell went wrong with the monetization of gaming. As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube who keep the channel alive. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. Let's go back to the 1980s and early 1990s. The video game revolution was kicking off, but home consoles weren't yet mainstream, so we went to arcades. You put your money in and play the game, effectively making arcades the socially accepted pay-to-play model. There's no denying arcades were bloody expensive. I remember dropping way more than I should have done to complete Time Crisis, but while this was expensive, there was a very simple relationship between the game, the money, and the player. Pay money, get access to the whole game. Victory depends on your skill. Game designers knew it was a simple transaction, and they knew someone would simply play as long as they were able to, so they had to make the game hard so you would die more, and so pay more. This is why the Turtles game had that underwater bit. It's why House of the Dead bosses were damage sponges. It's why Ghosts and Goblins was everything that Ghosts and Goblins is. In the early days of home consoles, when people would rent games, we even called difficult levels blockbuster levels, designed to make the rental period longer, and so you'd have to keep renewing it. So why don't these money-hungry games make us feel the same way as modern money-hungry games? Well, it's because the trade of money for game was simple, and there was nothing insidious about the transaction itself. You knew what you were giving, and you knew what you were getting. And if you were to break down the design time of a game into a pie chart at that point, it might look something like this. Story, graphics, narrative connections between them, mechanics, marketing, playtesting, and then how much a go at the arcade costs. There was a lot going on in the development of a game at these times, but it's all focused on making a game good, because at that time, good games make the most money. When a company discovered a successful game, they couldn't just augment the original with downloadable content or extra levels, because that technology didn't exist yet. They'd have to make a complete sequel, and so gamers got more games. Jump forward to the mid-1990s, the home console market had taken off. You buy a console, you buy a game, and then you play that game. Now, the whole lives mechanic in games at this time was a holdover from the arcade design space and wasn't actually needed in home consoles, because you didn't need the player to put more money in. Dying when you have 3 lives, then restarting from your last save, or just dying and restarting from the save anyway with no arbitrary life limit was functionally the same thing, but design moves slowly. Away from the arcade model, you no longer paid per play, and you now paid per game, and you then played as much as you wanted. Games were expensive, of course, but when you bought a game, it was complete. If it shipped with bugs, it could just have bugs forever. If it shipped with secret unlockable stuff, it would have that forever. When you owned the game, you owned the ability to play as much as you want of the complete experience. And this was a very simple and fair transaction. While the arcade was, here's a game, pay us to have a go, the console was, here's a game, pay us to keep it and play it whenever. But the home gaming scene wasn't just consoles, it was also PCs. Now, back then PC gaming wasn't as mainstream as it is today, but it did come with one major advantage. Because the PC held data files on its hard drive instead of just reading them from the disc or cart like a console, developers could create additional content for the game and sell that. Like the incredible RPG Baldur's Gate, releasing
add-ons and patches.
Tales of the Sword Coast in 1999. This was a time in gaming where developers could develop additional content, but when they did, it was usually a lot of content. PC games saw expansion after expansion, Morrowind seeing the Tribunal and Blood Moon expansions, Diablo 2, then the Lord of Destruction expansion, and all the extra modules for Neverwinter Nights. This was additional content for a game without being a sequel, but again, gamers didn't hate this because the transaction was very simple to understand and it felt fair. You gave them money, you got an experience designed to be the most fun it could possibly be. The biggest difference in this era is there's no trickery. You're not being manipulated, it's just a straight up understandable product. If we again take the idea of breaking down game development time into a pie chart, you've probably got a few new...
Well, that's not completely true. There was always trickery and lies and uncertainty, but yeah, not even like approaching to what bullshit is done nowadays, or approaching the bullshit that's practiced nowadays.
For now, we need to look to the east, to another popular online game from Korea called MapleStory. Now in Japan, these small toy capsules gachapon have been popular for years. You put money into a gachapon machine and get a random toy of varying rarity. These systems appeal to people who like collecting things and people who like random chance or mystery. It's basically gambling on a rather inconsequential level, but the psychology behind it is very powerful. So MapleStory introduced an in-game gachapon style system. 100 yen got you a ticket for a random in-game item, and many people consider this to be the first example of a random loot box. But more importantly, this was the first moment in mainstream video games where you could pay money and not know what you were getting. You were no longer paying for the game or for an established product, you were paying for the mystery, the ephemeral moment of
503
and eventual prize. And this
I need 565, I think. 565 is the highest skill, I think, of the highest technique. Bronze needs 565. 556.
Amongst players becomes a thing, and there are a subset of players who enjoy being seen as the person with the best stuff. And unlike real gachapon machines, which were either a physical distance to travel to or had a queue by them, or sometimes just sold out, virtual gachapon tickets were unlimited, entirely within the company's control, and could be bought constantly. MapleStory already had the in-game items made, so they were selling the excitement of chance, and they were tapping into the collector and completionist mentality of many hardcore gamers. So game developers began to see they didn't actually need to sell a gaming experience and
Level 2. Oh, I don't even have Maggot. Still don't have Maggot.
Realized it was completely worthwhile to dedicate at least some game development time, not to the game itself, but to systems within the game designed simply to extract money from the player after they had started playing, but without giving them a complete new game. This is the first part of the puzzle for where we are today. So let's put this idea of sell random chance into a little box. A box of all the design tricks which don't favour the player or make the game necessarily any better. A box of design tricks which don't make you think, oh my god, this is amazing, I need to tell all my friends, but instead use the game as a simple vehicle for additional monetization. Now, the techniques in this box are not games themselves. They cannot exist on their own. They aren't symbiotic with a game because they don't enhance each other. They are parasitic because they need the game to survive but don't necessarily improve it. We'll call this box Abusive Monetization Strategies, or for a more catchy title, Pandora's Box of Bad Design. The main danger of this box is, if we were to take the pie chart of game development time now, knowing that this box exists and knowing the techniques inside it can make a decent amount of money, the finance people know they need to find space for the techniques within this box somewhere on the pie chart, which means something else must lose out. Jump forward 2 years to 2006. The Western gaming market hasn't yet discovered the mass appeal and psychological dominance that loot boxes have. Jump forward. Finance people.
Something must go away. Playtest goes away. Mechanics goes away. Story goes away. Also, narrative goes away. They cut all of these off by like 66%. Like literally just cut off 2/3 of the quality of story, narrative, mechanics, playtest. And that's it. And fill it in with bullshit loot box monetization garbage.
No,
Also
they need
marketing.
to find space for the techniques within this box somewhere on the pie chart, which means something else must lose out. Jump forward 2 years to 2006. The Western gaming market hasn't yet discovered the mass appeal and psychology
Oh no,
dominant
2006.
loot boxes have, but they have discovered something
This is when
just as
FIFA
important.
happens.
Gamers will pay money to look different, and it all kicks off with this stupid horse.
The horse armor.
Video on the history of this horse, but the short story is The Elder Scrolls Oblivion was a great game with some great DLC, Knights of the Nine and the Shivering Isles. But you could also pay a few dollars to give your horse armor. Now, it's important to understand this is completely cosmetic. It doesn't actually make your horse any better in combat or defend it, but you can buy it. And people did. In fact, a lot of people bought it, and this highlighted another thing. Making a game takes a long time, but once the main game
The worst part about this armor is, I'm not 100% sure, I have heard many stories and they all contradict each other about the horse armor. Like, I've heard that this armor did cost $20. Like, it obviously does not, but I've heard many different things and I'm not sure about it because I've never bought this thing. I didn't even have an Xbox back then. I bought my 360 in 2014, so But I heard that the armor actually, like, you can put it on a horse, and if the horse dies, that armor is gone. I heard. I'm not sure. And I also heard you basically have to rebuy the armor. Which doesn't really make sense, because a bought thing doesn't just vanish, usually. Like, I don't understand how that's even supposed to work. But yeah, just fuck this armor. Or fuck the people that bought this nonsense. Fuck the people that bought this nonsense.
would take to make a cosmetic for that game is relatively short, and that cosmetic can be sold for a small amount of money, but it can be sold many times. The cost is micro, but the sales volume is high, hence microtransaction. Separate from the idea of a complete expansion, which would
I think I'm done for now. I'll eat I'll make something to eat, and yeah, I'll come back later. Bye bye.
So now developers know expansions are a bit risky, but